I'm going to teach you the most powerful Excel function. In fact, it replaces the need for any lookup function, SUMIFS, COUNTIFS, AVERAGEIFS, and it's called SUMPRODUCT. Here, let me show you. Most people use SUMPRODUCT in a much more limited manner than what you can use it for. So let's start with that. Here, I have a bunch of contracts in my pipeline and want to get the weighted average of all of these deals. So I simply enter equals SUMPRODUCT, then select my values, hit comma, and then my close likelihoods. I'll go ahead and close the parentheses and hit enter. Let's take a look at what exactly Excel is doing here. It's taking the first contract, multiplying by the close likelihood, and doing the same for each contract after that. When we're done, Excel sums that information and gives me back the value. Pretty simple, right? Okay, well, let's kick it up a notch. Starting with the lookup. Here, I want to pull the expense value for a specific date. Now, already with this exercise, you wouldn't be able to use VLOOKUP since you're actually looking up information in both directions. Wait, are you still using VLOOKUP? Why would you do that? You can use XLOOKUP or index match if you want, but as you'll see in a sec, it's actually much simpler with SUMPRODUCT. To help you follow along with what I'm doing, I created a few named ranges. First, I have a named range for my values over here, and then another for my months, and then another named range for my accounts. Over here, I created a named range for my date and for my account. Okay, so to get this value, all you need to do is follow this structure. I have my range, then my conditions, and each condition is separated by an asterisk. I'll show you how this works behind the scenes in a sec, but first, let's populate this section. So I'll type in equals SUMPRODUCT, then open parentheses. Okay, now I'm going to create a new parentheses for my entire range. What's cool is I could select a two-dimensional table. I'll close the parentheses and then I'll enter in an asterisk. Then I'll create my next parentheses, this time referring to my first condition. I'll select these dates over here and say that it equals the date selected over here. Let's close that parentheses. Then let's enter another asterisk, open parentheses. Then I'll select my accounts over here and say that it should equal this account selected as such. Let's close the parentheses and then close the parentheses one more time for the SUMPRODUCT function and hit enter. Check it out. I got my exact value and the formula is so easy to read. I can change my date or my account and the information will update. For context, this is how my formula would have looked if I used an XLOOKUP, causing me to have to nest an XLOOKUP inside another XLOOKUP. Then this is how my formula would have looked if I used index match. A little bit simpler, but still pretty lengthy. As you can see, using SUMPRODUCT results in the simplest formula. Now let me show you how SUMPRODUCT works behind the scenes. But first, if you're new to this channel, hey, I'm Josh, and I help people like you grow in your career with fun and easy to understand content around Excel, finance, and accounting. Hit that subscribe button to follow along, and don't be shy with that like button. Okay, so back to how the SUMPRODUCT function works. What we are in essence doing is creating multiple arrays and multiplying them by each other when the conditions are true or false. To illustrate this, I'm going to utilize the Evaluate Formula button under the Formulas ribbon. Watch what happens when I click Evaluate Formula. Excel shows my entire 3x3 range, and each row is separated by a semicolon. If I hit Evaluate again, it starts to dissect my first condition. So first it converts my dates to numbers, which is how Excel stores dates, and evaluates which of these dates reflect the date that I have selected. As you can see, only my first date matches. So when I hit evaluate once more, this will be converted to true, false, false. Now another way to say true and false is via a 1 or a 0. For example, if you're writing a VLOOKUP function, wait, seriously? Why are you still using this function? Shame. Well, at the end, when it asks for your match type, you can either enter 1 for true or 0 for false. So that's what the SUMPRODUCT function does. In this case, it'll replace this formula by 1, 0, 0. So now, if I multiply this condition by my range, Excel is going to analyze each row here. It'll multiply the first value by 1, the second value by 0, and the third value by 0. Now, I'll loop through my entire two-dimensional table, and for each row, it'll do the same. But I have one more condition, and that's to find the value that matches to this account. So once more, I'll hit evaluate. And as you can see with my accounts here, Excel is evaluating which one equals the account selected. And again, the value is in the number 1 spot over here. So Excel converted my range to true, false, false. Now it multiplies my range one more time, but this time in the opposite direction. So we'll get a 1 for our first row, then a 0 for the second row, and a 0 for our third row. We sum that all up together and we get our value right over here. And now that you understand what's happening behind the scenes, these other use cases are going to be a breeze. For example, let's say I want to sum the values that are greater than January 1st and less than February 29th. Well, that's so simple. I'll just change my formula in my first condition so that it evaluates if it's greater than my start date. Then I'll hit the asterisk key, open a parentheses, and set a new condition if my dates are less than or equal to the end date here. Check it out. Excel got the value. Now, what if I wanted to do this with, well, SUMIFS? Well, I could have done that easily in one direction, like this. But now I can't really do that in two directions. Whenever I change this value, the formula stays the same, even though I really want to get the sum of these two over here. Now, I could probably nest another SUMIFS inside this function, and by then I'd probably just be dizzy. So let's just use SUMPRODUCT. But wait, there's more. What if I wanted to sum values for these dates if it met either of these two accounts? Kind of like a SUMIFS OR. I don't think that's a real thing, but with SUMPRODUCT, your dreams become a reality. So the logic here is instead of setting one condition, I want to set two and pull in values that meet either of these criteria. I in essence want to evaluate both of these conditions, and if either of them find a match, pull the value. So I really just need to add the ones and zeros from these together, like this. So to get there, I'll just wrap my arguments under a new parentheses, and instead of multiplying them by one another, I'll add them together, like this. So my first condition will be true, false, false, and then my second condition will be false, false, true, leaving my final array to be true, false, true. I'll go ahead and close this parentheses over here, and I'll close the parentheses once more for my entire SUMPRODUCT function. Check it out. Looks like it worked. The values are now summed for marketing and professional fees for the period selected over here, which equals 70,000. And if I want, I could just change this over here to payroll fees. And again, the information automatically updates accordingly. Pretty neat. But so far, we've only been talking about summing values. What if we want to get the average of our values? Ask and ye shall receive. First, we need to get the count of values. Well, that's literally the easiest thing in the world to do. Ready? Take our normal formula and just remove the range. This will only leave our arrays for each condition. I'll go ahead and hit enter and check it out. Now we have 4 times that these values meet these criteria that we set. If I go ahead and change this to 331, this will now change to 6 as such. Remember, this is the same function that we just populated over here, only we don't have this section here. We're not multiplying each of these ones and zeros by our final array to get the count. And that's now how we get our average. All we need to do is select this formula, press Ctrl+C, go to our average tab over here, paste in the formula, and then paste it in a second time, dividing one by the other. But in this first formula, I'm going to add back our values over here. So this will get us our actual value of the sum product, and then this will get us the count of those values, which allows us to then get the average. Check it out. If I go ahead and highlight over these cells, you'll see that 17,500 is the actual value. Pretty sweet, huh? And once you have your data, why not put it into a beautiful dashboard for others to see? Well, lucky for you, this video will walk you through step-by-step how to do that. Just go right ahead and click right there. Oh, and what was your favorite use case with SUMPRODUCT? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you next time.